Hello drone video fans, and my name is Bill. This video we're going to have a look at West Orchard's farm market, a family owned market now in its 5th generation of ownership, which originally started back in 1891. So they have a long history here in Perry, Ohio, in northeast Ohio. This is a front look of the store, and then we're going to zoom in 2x with the Autel Evo, and we're going to take a look here at a little bit of the front of the store. On the right hand side, you can see they've got some fresh sweet corn in the back and all kinds of pumpkins and gourds for decorating your house as we come up on Halloween. Inside the store is all manner variety of apples and squash and melons, and there's fruit, there's homemade honey and jams, and just about anything you can think of that you might find in a family-run farm store. They can't fit everything on the inside, so they do have a display here on the outside where you can look at more of a selection of the squash and gourds, and even some plants like mums and so on, and so I thought I'd fly up here a little bit and head out over this side area and pan down on it and give you a little idea of what that area of the store looks like. And again, there's a huge variety. This little or large building in the back is for processing some of the produce before it comes into the front of the store, or is sold to other retailers or people who are looking to buy perhaps in bulk. We swing around here now 180 degrees. We're facing into the northerly direction. That's Route 20 that you see in front of us. There's very little traffic and not much traffic at the store because I intentionally came here early in the day, about 9 o'clock, to try and avoid inconveniencing any of the customers as I did this shoot. After doing the front of the store, we decided we'd come in the back and take a look at some of the rows of apple trees, and we're going to fly down an entire row of yellow delicious apples. I was a little bit too low here starting off, and flying this low, the obstacle avoidance system on the Autel Evo was getting set off, so it's not flying as smoothly as I wanted. But a little later on, we climbed a couple of feet, and that took care of that problem. You can clearly see how loaded each of these apple trees are with the fruit, and so that makes me jealous. I've got 6 apple trees in my backyard, and this year I didn't have a single blossom on my apple tree, so of course I didn't have any apples at all, and I've just been having rotten luck. I've been thinking about cutting them all down. Anyways, but you can see here there's no problem with the quantity of apples. There's so many apples on some of these trees that the branches are laying close to the ground or bent over, and they're just quite an abundance. And remember, these are just 2 rows of many rows of various apple trees, and you'll see more of those later on. Besides apples, they do also grow peaches. They have an area for peach trees, an area for cherry trees, different fruit, but they come in at different parts of the season. I didn't view those because of course they're out of season now and there's nothing on those trees. We come here to another couple rows of trees, and this is a red variety. I'm thinking it's either Jana Gold or Macintosh. I'm not the apple expert, but we did turn around here to the side and sort of flew sideways down the road to get an idea. You can see how full of apples each one of these trees are. They're just loaded with fruit, and they all look so good. sitting there on the thing. There's a lot of work coming up for the pickers. Having viewed a couple of rows of the trees, we thought we'd take it up to maximum safe altitude, which in the United States is 400 feet, and I think I got to 397 feet when I took it up. And just to give you an idea of this one particular area of the farm and the rows of apple trees, and they do have besides apple trees, they have peach trees and cherry trees, and as I said, many kinds of varieties of apple trees. But you'll see some areas of the field that are look like they've been disked over or just bare, and those are areas where corn was planted. They do a booming business in selling sweet corn. Of course, that's just about coming to an end now. They've pretty much picked everything that they were going to, and have cleaned up the fields where those were being grown. There's other areas of the farm where vegetables and pumpkins and gourds and squash and strawberries and all that sort of thing are grown. But this is kind of giving you a sweeping view. There's a tree line there, and beyond that some beige looking grass. I'm not sure that that's part of the 66 acres that make up this farm. You can see some blue at the very top of your screen. That's Lake Erie, so it gives you a reference marker of how close we are to Lake Erie itself. Now we've flown over to where we have a couple of guys picking apples. These rows that you see on either side are Red Delicious apples, a variety that probably most of you are familiar with. There's a tractor here that's got a platform behind it that has 6 large crates on it. I don't know how much each one of those crates contain, but shortly here you'll be seeing the 2 workers that they have. They have ladders, but mostly they stand on the ground and pick these apples. You'll see that inside there they've already got quite a good start. I'm not sure if they started at the back end. I'm pretty sure they started at the back end of this row and are working their way towards the front. Shortly here you'll see a guy coming in, and he's got what looks to be like about a 1.5 to 2 bushel size bag with a bottom opening flap, which allows him to discharge the apples that he picked into those crates without bruising or damaging them. And as soon as he lets those in, he buttons it back up and goes back to picking. I knew there was another picker, and I thought he was further down the road here, so I kind of tilt my lens up a little bit, but then I saw the branches moving down below me, and realized that I had overshot him. So I pan back down and see him here standing on a ladder looking around. Now when they're picking these apples, it was interesting to note that they don't pick every apple. They look at the apples, and by some determination they determine which ones they're going to pick, and they put them in their bushels, and then take them over to the huge crates that you see here on this stand, and let them loose, gently into there, and then fix the bottom of their personal bagging container, and then go back to picking. You notice that there's several, or actually quite a few, apples on the ground. And I talked to the owner, Todd, about that, and I says, geez, it's a shame. See all those apples on the ground. What do you do with those? And he says, well, by state law, we cannot sell those in the store, but what we do is sell them, to other farmers for livestock feed, or hunters for, to attract deer or whatever. But they don't sell those particular apples in the store. And besides that, and you can see they're continuing to pick apples. Every apple that is picked, not all of them will make it to inside the store. They only put the quality apples in there. Some that are considered seconds, or that have spots on them, or some kind of defect, they will sell to companies that do juicing, for like cider or apple juice or whatever. But so the ones that make it to the storefront and are being sold there are the select ones that are top quality apples, and these are you've probably bought Red Delicious apples in the store at your local store, and they're probably marked as like 2¼ inch in diameter as a standard size. These are way bigger than 2¼ inches. They're probably more like 3¼ inches, and one of those yellow containers that you see emptying right there, I bet weighs a considerable amount once they get them filled up with apples. So they just work methodically up and down the row picking the apples, and again, not picking every one, but selectively picking the best of what they see on the tree at the time. We've been shooting this with 2x zoom, and now we backed out to just normal view 1x zoom, because what we wanted to do was fly down the row and turn around and be pointing back towards the apple pickers to get a slightly different perspective. Look at the number of rows and trees and of apples there, so a lot of work ahead of them. Anyways, back to picking apples and unloading their individual bags there into the crates that you see there. And it was a cool morning, that's why they're wearing jackets and hoodies and whatnot. But later on in the day, probably another hour or two, with the sun being out, it warmed up to where they were probably able to take those off and be a little more comfortable with with the situation. And I'm sure they're not picked. They're not paid by how many apples they pick. They're probably paid a salary for picking these apples. In the distance there, you see me at the end of the aisle watching them, and we're just getting ready now to wrap up the shoot. So we're heading back and getting ready to land. Hope you enjoyed this video and this look at the West Orchard Farm Market. And if you enjoyed it, you might consider leaving a comment or a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and for stopping. Come back soon. We'll have another video up as soon as we get something to shoot.